where they have the well-meaning, socialist on there talking about none of us will have to work. There'll be no more classes. It will be eradicated. But that is a class. That is the state eradicating it with strict rules, control. You can't look good. You can't say what looks good because that makes a class. You can't be better at something. And again, you have this overarching technocrat elite like in THX 1138, which again is from Huxley's work, which he admits before he died in a Berkeley speech was actually what the government of England was planning, his brother running the UN at UNESCO. So I wanted to first play for Alan Watt a clip from Zeitgeist Addendum, Part 10, that we played a few days ago, where this well-meaning individual, and I have no doubt the vitriol he's got, they believe in it, that this utopia from the machines. But see, the prime directive of the machines is to control, dominate, and displace humans so we're not needed, so we can then be cold, as Bill Joy warned the public in his April 2000 article in Wired Magazine when he went to a globalist conference, and they were talking about how to exterminate the majority of us. I mean, this is really going on. So here's the clip from Zeitgeist.
We're such an abominable, sick society that we won't make the history book. They just say that large nations took land from smaller nations, used force and violence. You'll get history talked about as corrupt behavior all the way along until the beginning of the civilized world. That's when all the nations work together. World unification, working toward common good for all human beings, and without anyone being subservient to anyone else, without social stratification, whether it be technical elitism or any other kind of elitism, eradicated from the face of the earth. The state does nothing because there is no state.
Oh yeah, the state. I mean that is so childlike, but so simple for the dumbed down mass to buy into. This is exactly what the technocrats 150 years ago in England thought up. And so I want you to comment on that, Alan. Then I'm going to play From Things to Come, H.G. Wells', big blockbuster movie from the 30s.
Mm-hmm. What's interesting about it is it doesn't say in the movie how they'll get to that stage. And they keep mentioning to sustainability. That means reduction of population. It means, obviously, that again, there's going to be a eugenics program in place. We have to go back, as you say, into time. And we see this emerging with theosophy in Britain. When Madame Blavatsky was put out there to the public to start off a branch, mainly to get a lot of women into this movement, but also men as well. And we know that the High Masons ran this organization. In fact, Besant, who took over from Blavatsky, was a daughter of Lord Besant. Now, Besant itself is the name of the standard of the Knights Templars. That was the name of it, Besant. So even their names were phony, but they used them in real life. So they came up with Krishnamurti, who was to be a savior of the world, a new messiah. And he was trained by these lords, these High Masons, to do what he did. And this movie, I noticed, started off with Krishnamurti talking. So here is a theosophist bringing in the theosophical worldview. Now, let's not forget, we jump forward, Adolf Hitler and all the boys around him based the Nazi ideology on theosophy. They were theosophists. They did believe in eugenics. That was a prime tenet of theosophy. Special breeding, selective breeding. We know this was happening already in the 1800s. We see it with Charles Darwin's family. They kept interbreeding with...
well, we see them talking about total, absolute tyranny, where you're not allowed to be a better painter, you're not allowed to know more about math. That's why they say they're going to drug and engineer everyone to be this suboid class. This is the ultimate darkness, and they mix it in with 9/11 truth. They mix it in with anti-New World Order, when the New World Order is the author of this. Let me play the next clip. This is From Things to Come. And in the film, they're flying around with perfect B-2 bombers, nerve-gassing the people, the barbarists that won't submit. They're in black uniforms around council tables, setting up their New World Order. This is it. Here it is.
Who are all that are left of the old engineers and mechanics have pledged ourselves to salvage the world. We have the airways, all that's left to do. We have the seas. And we have ideas in common. The brotherhood of efficiency. The Freemasonry of science. This is how I conceive our plan of operations. First, the roundup of brigands. That last dismal vestige of ancient predatory soldiery. The last would-be conquerors. then settle, organize, advance, this zone, then that, and at last, wings over the world, and the new world begins.
By the way, there's a part in the movie where he lands at the air base and they're taking over with a dictatorship, and the guy says, I'm not going to turn over my guns to you. And he says, look, this is a new world order, and then they nerve gas him. And then that's peaceful, though. Well, because we're for the good, we're allowed to disarm you. And again, that's the exact stuff we're hearing out of the zeitgeist. And they first did a 9/11 film to get everybody on board, thinking, oh, this is good, and now we see this. Alan Watt.
Yeah, this, as I say, it's an old agenda. They've never changed. Now, it was tied in with the Nazi movement, and it was also tied in with the communist movement, because Lenin also said that eventually, towards the end of the millennium, the year 2000, he said, the state will gradually wither away. And sure enough, we'd already had statements before the year 2000 by Bush Sr. talking about the New World Order coming into view.
But all that is the old state and the family being absorbed into the technocrat global corporate system.
Absolutely, a world system where the United Nations was to be given the teeth that it was set up to have. And this is the key to it. All the cries now are going towards we need a world system, a world government, and a world economic bank to run the whole planet. And that's
which is in things to come. There's an economic crash in wars, which they engineer, and then they pick up the pieces. Same system.
Same system. And a world without poverty can only happen when you eradicate the poor. That's part of it. See, into a technological system, you don't need such a large population. In fact, it's based on having a very small population being served by technology. So this is the agenda. I don't know if you noticed in the architectural magazines that they're setting up a pyramid. They've drafted up a pyramid town
everywhere,
or city for Dubai, where it literally is a machine. You live inside a machine. Now, not everyone can get in, obviously, to this machine. It's going to be selective people only. They're already setting up the future right now as we live, and we are probably the last of our kind if this succeeds, as they gradually reduce us with sicknesses and diseases and so on.
That's right. Dubai and Switzerland appear to be, and also the Cook Islands and a few other places, the redoubts, the keeps, the strongholds, and I've had elitists tell me this, so that when they set up the police state in the next decade or so, then they can have the controlled bioweapons releases that will kill the majority of us. And folks, we've been right about everything else. If the elite continue with the plan, most of us listening now will be killed by neutron releases, as the British military report says, and controlled bioweapons releases. So all of you serving the system laughing, you're going to be dead. Alan, how long until they start just the mass extermination? I know they've got to get the grid in place first, so we can't struggle out of it. How long until the mass extermination begins?
I don't think it'll be much more than a couple of years. Once 2010 is a big time, that's when the last signature for the total integration of the Americas takes place is 2010. By 2012, they want the United Nations to be raised up to its status as world government in charge of the three trading blocks of the world, which will then become almost like colonies. That's what they'll be under the United Nations. So they must start taking down the population through disease, war, and every other means possible. This is what they call the 100 years of chaos that they've talked about for centuries and centuries. It would take 100 years to take down a civilization, to reduce it, to train the young to come up into the new system as obedient servants who truly believe in it, and then at the end they hope to have their technological utopia. They always talk about utopia. Yeah.
Continue, Alan.
As I say, you have to go back into the history. Now, the Fabian Society was a branch of this amalgamation of organizations that were all set up with specialized areas to be active in. And the Fabian Society, if you read H.G. Wells, he was also a founder member of the Fabian Society. He was also a member of the public relations, a PR man for the British intelligence organizations that were under royalty. And the Fabian Society were really deeply into eugenics. If you read through their writings, they're widely available. And they're one of the main instruments behind this. Their job was to get the average person, ordinary people, to truly believe in this change and worked towards it. It was almost communistic in its ideology for the workers to believe, but at the top, they knew they needed the many people from within society, ordinary people, to true believers, in other words, to fall for the big lie of utopia and work willingly towards it. So they use everyone in turn. It's the same as the communist system. They had one set of propaganda for the mass man, one for the bureaucracy, and one for the Politburo, different agendas. This is the same kind of thing that goes on here. So all those who fall for, we're going to walk into a brave new utopia, all of us together, and I deserve to be there because I'm special and I've been very good, that's the big lie. You will be eradicated once.
That's right. Most of the minions of this are like, it's going to be a beautiful utopia, no more work and love, but there'll have to be a lot of, crushing people to get that utopia, and then no more wars. The globalists admit they engineered World War I, World War II to get their League of Nations.